What's going on, guys? It's been a while since I last uploaded, so apologies for that. Got a couple big projects on at the minute. Gonna try and have those out sometime soon, but in the meantime, we're gonna be working on this. So today's video, I'm gonna be taking this wah-wah pedal and converting it to be rechargeable battery powered. It's already battery powered, it'll run off a 9V, and you can also plug in a 9V power supply from the side, but all that does is switch to the 9V to power it. It doesn't use the 9V input to actually charge the 9V battery in there. What I plan to do is make this completely rechargeable through 5V instead of 9V, so it can be a USB. It's going to be really similar to my Black Star mini amplifier mod, if you've seen that. Link there, in case you haven't, by the way. But yeah, that's pretty much what this video is going to be. Really simple one. Let's get started. So now we've got this thing opened up, looking at it, we've got quite a lot of room to work with. I want to avoid this area just because we've got mechanical parts moving about, but this area is fair game. So I'm thinking we can probably mount a rechargeable battery somewhere in here. I could probably literally just squish that in there. Might be a height issue. We could have to end up like 3D printing a bottom for this. It's not the end of the world though. But yeah, I definitely think there's room for one of these in there, and also a charging circuit like this one. To actually hijack the barrel jack, there's probably some traces on the underside of the PCB that we can cut. We're also going to end up having to remove the battery from there, so we won't need that. Yeah, let's start disassembling a bit more of this. So the more I look at this circuit, the more I realise we're probably going to have to test a few things before like making any changes. So let's move that out of the way for now, and I'll get a voltmeter. And also this is a failed project, but I'm going to use this little booster circuit to replace this battery. Okay, that's about it. As you can see, I've got the potentiometer on here set to around about 9V, so that's good. Basically what I'm going to do now is just take the 9V off of here. There we go. We'll take the 9V off of there, and I'm just going to plug those wires into this just to see if we can get it working through this first. It's a bit of a cheat, but that battery is not actually plugged in. I'm just using it to keep that wire in place. So hopefully everyone understands that, yeah? And then I'm going to use this to connect to the other one. It's a bit janky, but I'm sure you guys can understand what's going on there. Ignore the battery. The battery is not part of this. It's just there to help me be lazy. Okay, now need to actually check this thing works as well, I guess. What I do want to check as well is whether there's much difference in the sound with using like an actual 9V battery and using this, which has been stepped up to 9V. So I'm going to go get like a fully charged one of these because I know that's dead, and we can check if they sound similar, I guess. I think the battery's dead. I don't have any more 9V batteries. Oh, actually, do I have any more 9V batteries? Yes, I do. I'm pretty confident this is going to work, so we can get to stage 2, which is taking this off, hijacking this and forcing that and that in one of those in here. So, taking a little while to diagnose this. Really shouldn't have, because it was actually kind of simple. The only trace that we need to cut on here is here. So we're going to disconnect these two pins from each other. And that's more or less when I stop speaking incoherent sentences. So allow me to explain a little bit. Whenever this jack here is not being used, these two pins are connected to each other. That means that when we've got a battery hooked up, power's able to go along this trace between those two pins and then elsewhere in the circuit. But what happens when this jack is in use? When the jack is in use, these two pins are isolated from one another. That means that no power can flow between them. So, with our battery hooked up again, any power coming in just stops at this pin here. It doesn't make its way anywhere else in the circuit. But that's okay, because obviously with the cable plugged in, we've got power coming into the circuit through this pin here. That's the positive. And the power is obviously able to make its way elsewhere in the circuit. So why do we want to isolate these two pins from one another? Well, I'll tell you. The reason we're doing this is because we need to take the power coming in from the jack and send it through this. This is our charging circuit. We're going to hook up the positive input from that charging circuit to this pin right here, and the negative input to this pin right here. That means any power going through this cable into this board is just going to come straight back out and go into this board. From there, this charging circuit would go on to charge the battery, so we can just put the battery up here for now. So that's good. That covers charging the battery. But what about discharging the battery? Obviously, this circuit still needs to get power from somewhere. How are we going to do that? Well, that's what this board's for. This board is going to be used to step up the voltage from our battery and make it usable by this circuit. So the other two pins on our charging board are the output pins. We're going to hook these two pins up like so, ignoring those and going over here. We've got our positive input. This is coming from the battery, by the way. So the battery is coming into this board and then outputted through these pins. I appreciate this is looking a bit confusing, but we're almost done now. Finally, from the step-up board, we're going to go like so, with our ground hooked up where it used to be on the board, and our positive hooked up here on a new pin, the pin that we just isolated from the barrel jack. Now, this looks like a load of spaghetti mess, so let's just follow it one more time. Power's coming in through the cable, and it doesn't go anywhere in this board. It just goes straight out through these two wires into our charging circuit, and then it can charge the battery through these two pins here. Then, if we ever need to discharge the battery, like when we're actually using this thing, the power is coming into this board and out through these two outer pins, into this board, being stepped up, and then going in through the normal ground, and then through this new positive. That's how it works. Simple, right? Okay, so that's battery wires hooked up, and now we need ones for input. Okay, that's all we need there. What I'm going to do is actually leave this 9-volt lead on here, because I can easily put a jumper between those two in case I ever wanted to revert this change. Battery's going to live just about here, I guess, or even this way around, because that way we can put some circuitry at the bottom here. Hot tip, by the way, don't get your batteries too hot. Be very careful if you do something like this. In fact, let's just do this. This way, no batteries will be harmed in the making of this video. So, moment of truth. Does everything still work? And this, nothing blows up. We have charge. Okay, I'll take that as acceptable. Some plug, and finally, just move these circuit boards in. I'm thinking down here, they also need to be isolated from each other because they can't really be shorting out. I'm thinking some foam of some kind. Okay, those boards in place. They sit pretty comfortably down there, and our battery, that right there is pretty damn compact and in place. Yeah, I'm happy with this. I don't even think I'm going to bother gluing the battery in place just because of how snug it is. With like the top cover on this, it's definitely not going to move. Yeah, that's all the bulge there is there. If I played about with this for long enough, I could probably get it completely flat, if I'm totally honest. But for me, I'm pretty comfortable with that. Let's try this thing out one final time. Thanks so much much for watching my video, guys. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a like. If you really enjoyed it, maybe consider subscribing. That'd definitely help me out. I'm hoping to have some new content out before Christmas. Should be some wintry stuff, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, not much else to say. See ya.